know my history.
Good evening, everyone. And welcome to White Lake Township's regularly scheduled board meeting of Tuesday, December 19th, 2023. I will call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. At this time, if you can, I'd like you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
Trustee Ruggles.
Here.
Clerk Noble here. Supervisor Kowal.
Here.
Treasurer Roman.
Here.
Trustee Powell.
Here.
Trustee Voorhees.
Present.
All present and accounted for. Make a motion for approval of the agenda.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and
Just
approval.
if I could just say something, I want to compliment the planning department and you, Mr. Supervisor, for your appointments to the ZBA and the CIA.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
All right, I have a motion, I have support, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item is public comment. If you have something that you want to say that is not on the agenda, you can come to the podium. You'll have to identify yourself for the recorder, and you will have 3 minutes to state your case, so to speak. So anyone at this time have public comment? Seeing no public comment, I will close public comment. And we will move on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes.
Can you just mention if anyone has a public comment on an agenda item, that they should raise their hand and they'll be called on?
Right. During our conversations, if there is something on the agenda that you have questions or comments on, we always kind of give you an edge to say something. That's kind of just the way we've done things around here. So I assume that everybody knows that, but thank you, Mr. Roman, for pointing that out, and I appreciate that. Okay. Consent agenda, revenue expenses, check disbursements, amendments, reports, and appointments. And as you said, Mr. Powell, you appreciated the one?
I
So
appreciate the one, and I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion to approve. Looking for support?
Support.
I have support from Andy Voorhees. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Minutes 7A, 7B, approval of the minutes of special board meeting of November 7th, 2023, and approval of the minutes of a regular board meeting November 21st, 2023.
Mr. Supervisor?
Mr. Powell.
I just want to point out one small item. We don't have to turn to it, but on page 6 of the approval minutes of the regular board meeting, the last line in the third paragraph on page 6, the word should be concerned with an ED, not just concern. Otherwise, I move the minutes, the approval of the minutes of the special board meeting and the regular board meeting as corrected.
I have a motion as submitted and corrected, and looking for support.
Support.
I have motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Next item, we get to do something a little bit fun. Chief? Oh, there you are. Thank you. I was just looking, you kind of blended in over there. The floor is yours.
Mr. Supervisor, with your permission, I'd like to have department members come forward.
Please do.
Wow, they look a lot better than when they fight a fight on.
I'd rather see him in this state.
Should I go see if that mic works? Is that mic working?
Ask, there we go. He's getting it right now. Okay.
Who's missing?
Test. Does it work? Test.
Yes, I can hear you.
That's good. This is a good thing.
Oh, that's even better. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Get it
A
closer.
little closer? Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and board members. Showing a lot of support for these guys, and we really appreciate it. Tonight's it's a special night for us, and it's an exciting time for the fire department. We're here to recognize certain individuals for their hard work, for their dedication of service to the community and the organization. And we're excited to have this opportunity to share this with you guys tonight. Our first award is for our one-year recognition. It's going to be for probationary firefighter Joseph Doulette. Why don't you come right up here, Joe? Who's going to pin you?
My father.
Okay, we'll have him come up. Give him the badge. Probationary firefighter Joseph Doulette. He's fulfilled our expectations, and we recognize the completion of his one-year probationary period. The hard work that he's put forth has earned him the right to be pinned and recognized as a firefighter with White Lake Township. The badge and oath symbolizes his willingness to uphold the best interests of the community and the organization. I do things a little differently here. I pin them first because I want them sworn in with their badge on their uniform. Right here. Dave, good job. Here you go.
Please raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of firefighter for the Township of White Lake, County of Oakland, and State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability, so help me God. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Way to go, Joe.
Good job, Joe. Joseph's also one of our first candidates we're sending through paramedic school. And I think he's already started school now, haven't you? January, okay. Next, it's my pleasure to acknowledge individuals for outstanding service that was rendered this past summer. Shift 1, under the command of Captain Jason Crean, responded to a reported rollover accident that proved to be very challenging. Extrication, at best, is a technical rescue. One thing about extrication is it's an easy thing for me to sit here and talk about it. It's a lot harder to do. When you're using these hydraulic tools and you're under certain weather conditions, it can make things very challenging. And these guys are really good at it. And one thing you do is you're looking at techniques. You've got to provide this service safely, quickly, and effectively. And the incident commander really has to monitor that. He monitors the progress, because you know what? If we're not making progress, we have to change that plan, and that does happen periodically. It can be a very dynamic scene. And the responders in this situation, they went to a call of a rollover accident during a heavy thunderstorm or torrential rain. The vehicle was upside down approximately 50 feet from the roadway, down an embankment, and it was lodged in vegetation. The terrain was muddy and uneven and in total darkness. They had 4 people in need of care and 1 entrapment. And these conditions created a challenging environment for the responders, especially while using these tools. So I want to recognize Captain Jason Crean. I'll have you guys come right up. Sergeant Corey Voss. Sergeant Dave Mills. On a call right now. Firefighter EMT Scott Haberl. Firefighter EMT Stu Agranov. He's on a call. Firefighter EMT Joseph Doulette. Gentlemen, the department recognizes and thanks you for a job well done. Got a couple more to go. Now we're going to give an award. We don't give this very often, this one. This is our probationary firefighter of the year. We've changed it, retitled it. And there's an individual that really was fitting for this. This award is presented to an individual for their dedication, enthusiasm, and training during their probation. It's truly a success story. This probationary employee that has the ability to inspire others. Someone who's eager to learn, volunteers for projects, and always strives to be better. It's so important in this business. And it's the man of the hour, firefighter EMT Joseph Doulette. Come on up. Joseph, this organization recognizes these traits in you, and as a token of our gratitude, you are presented with the 2023 Probationary Firefighter of the Year. This one's a little bit more, I had to get a drink, a little bit more lengthy to read here. This last award we're going to give is, we're going to recognize our Firefighter of the Year. I want to kind of read to the public. I want you to understand the history behind it. Firefighter of the Year is an award to recognize a well-rounded firefighter who exceeds, or who has exceeded above and beyond the duty expectations for the position. It's an individual who has demonstrated a distinct pattern of professionalism, one who projects positivity toward everyone they interact with, from peers to upward command staff, coupled with outstanding service to the community. This is a person who not only wants to do the job, but is honored to serve. Firefighter of the Year is an exceptional individual, and being exceptional takes exceptional commitment. I want to talk about a recently retired member of our department who not only meets the description, but exceeds it in certain ways. Tonight, we're here to recognize retired Fire Department Sergeant Kirk Thompson. Sergeant Thompson started with our department in 1994 as a paid-on-call firefighter. We noticed immediately what a valuable asset he was to the department. He was eager to learn the job. He thrived as he grew into the position. And within 4 years, he became a career member of the department. I had the pleasure of having Kirk as a shift partner. And I can tell you, as well as his coworkers, they'll also share that Kirk projected an impressive attitude and an exemplary skill level throughout his career. He was extremely athletic, with high endurance level, and exercised regularly. Approximately 2 years ago, Kirk started experiencing noticeable difficulties with physical activity that were usually manageable, and to some degree unchallenging, became labors to him. Kirk began to sustain deficits that included muscle loss and breathing difficulty. Through numerous medical evaluations, he received a diagnosis that was life-altering and ultimately career-ending. Through all this, enduring the challenges and the struggles of this progressive disease, Kirk was able to still visit the fire station. He didn't complain. He came around. The same guy. He would just talk to us, positive. It's like, the only thing different was he had noticeable difficulties, and it was hard for us, and I know it's hard for him. But he didn't complain. He remained positive and thankful for each day. He's a man with a big heart, who's kind and patient, presents a character trait and a level of bravery that most of us will never know. Kirk has exceeded the expectations of this award in his professional career, his personal challenges, and it's only fitting that we retitle our Firefighter of the Year to the Kirk Thompson Firefighter of the Year, and that he will be its first recipient. Ladies and gentlemen, retired member Kirk Thompson.
Stay seated so you don't have to take me out.
Thank you, Kirk. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your support. Mr. Supervisor, thank you for giving us the floor.
Absolutely. These are the fun events.
Shut that door when you go out.
Thank you.
There's got to be a party somewhere close by, I know that. We'll let everybody kind of exit here for just a moment.
Like everybody. Leave.
Well, it's pretty obvious that,
Yeah, they're all here for Kirk. Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, you did a good job. Rick?
Yeah, go.
Guess I didn't know that. A paramedic at church. It's been very helpful. He's the pastor's husband. It's just like, it's very, I'm not saying I like him. The presence is awesome.
He never said what he
Taking us
has.
out of some rough spots.
Really?
Yeah, like, we have a.
And you've had.
And she. It's all. Ray knows what to do. That's me, and she's like the one that put.
Mr. Supervisor, would you like me to go, want me to close those doors, or?
They're going.
They're working their way, but we'll have them close it. I'll have somebody close the doors. Mr. Anderson?
It's still, they're still.
They're still
trying to make
filing
their
out, but when they
way
do,
out.
if you can kind of
So he's planning,
give them the nudge.
So he's doing that.
Because he served.
Thank you.
This might be a minute.
Says that Trump was kicked out in Colorado for 14th Amendment case.
He kicked off of that.
But he just Senate, Trump kicked out in Colorado for 14th. I don't think they can.
I was worried
leading
about this
the
meeting
state.
and how long it's going to take because I saw.
Small amount.
Yeah, oh yeah, I didn't realize. I know. That's why I was.
That's an odd. It's almost time for civil.
I don't have any reason to challenge.
Okay, thank you, everyone. The next item on the agenda is item 9A. It's a request to approve the Civic Center Security Consulting Service proposals. Mr. O'Neill.
This promises to be less inspiring and exciting than John's presentation, but we'll try to make it through. When we originally hired the architects on to perform the design services for the new buildings, there were some exceptions to what design services that they would provide. Furniture, IT, security, those are, I guess, the big three that come to mind. So the contract does allow, as an additional service in Section 4 of the B133, the architects to select a sub-consultant to work under their contract, but it gives the township board the ability to approve that expenditure because it's significant. Before you tonight are proposals for each building from Summers Associates, who both architects are familiar with and are looking forward to working with if it's approved tonight, if this request is approved. I want to point out the fact that when we originally had a proposal from Summers, the dollar amount seemed a little bit high to the committee. We asked the architects to go back to Summers because this is sort of a sole bid. This is not something we bid out. They select someone, we look at their pricing, and I guess move ahead. And Summers did come back with a 10% reduction, which we all appreciated. Represented about a $7,000 price reduction from the original proposal of $70,000. So before you tonight are proposals for the Township Hall building at $27,420 and the Public Safety building at $36,000 even. This will cover the design of the security system, and they'll provide all the specifications and basically deliver a bid package. This won't be bid out with all of, I don't think in the same way of all the building components. It's not part of the GMP, according to Aaron Phillips. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow. But we'll have all the information, all the documentation we need to be able to bid the full security system out at the end of this design. What it does not include are construction services. So when whoever the end vendor is that ends up installing the system is putting it in, if we need Summers to come out and take a look at something, there'll be an hourly charge for them to get involved in the ongoing construction inspection. And I do anticipate there'll probably be a need for that at some point, but I think it'll be fairly insignificant compared to what we're looking at from a design standpoint. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Both Stu and Tefra hung around for this item after our 5:30 meeting as well.
Okay. I know that there was some conversation during the construction committee's processes about having the same consultant for both buildings because there'll be some integration between the two systems. And one of the things I learned a long time ago, you may have the same project that needs to be done, and you may find two different contractors, but when something goes wrong, this is what happens. And it makes more sense, and I think the committee was in agreement that it would make sense to have the same contractor.
I want to point out, and I forgot to mention this in my comments, if you remember back a few months ago, you approved a proposal from Action Target for the design of the range, the outfitting for the range, because that's not something that Redstone specializes in, and it was something that we needed to have done to make sure when you poured that space in, it met certain standards and specifications. So it is something that you've done once before. It's something you'll probably do again for IT, and you'll probably do again for furniture at some point in the next, 45 days, 60 days, something like that.
Okay, I did some independent inquiry with some of my construction associates, and they told me that $1 a square foot's not an uncommon number for these types of facilities, and because they're specialized facilities, they felt that the number was well within range, and because in particular for the public safety building, which will require more extensive systems and, other security recommendations that will require, be required in the function of their day-to-day operation. So for both police and fire. So that,
And I think the only thing, and I had mentioned it to you earlier today, the only thing I would add to any motion that you made that's not in the memo is that the township attorney has not reviewed this yet. So I would say any motion to approve beyond just the basic of allowing you to sign it, I would request that the township attorney give it a once-over.
subject to attorney
Right.
review.
Please.
Questions or
Just that standard
comments?
practice.
Questions or comments from the board, Mr. Roman?
Yeah, Stu and Tefra, I noticed they get down to the nitty gritty in these, even to the point where they list out the number of meetings that, these contracts cover. So I just wanted to ask you if you had a chance to review these and if you've got enough meetings and everything that, are gonna meet these contracts. If not, it says everything's per diem, but they don't give any kinds of fees for extra meetings, and so, your thoughts?
I'm satisfied with that. Usually, the in-person meetings are a really big deal, and there's so many other ways to meet these days that's not really a big deal. And they put those types of clauses in their contracts so that all of a sudden you weren't asking them to come up every week for the next 12 weeks, that type of thing, so.
Okay,
In-person meetings and Zoom meetings are one thing, phone calls for coordination are another. So those are more frequent and we'll handle a lot of the coordination. Quick calls, quick meetings for Zoom are not considered and itemized on there. So those will happen in addition to what he has there.
yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
Oh, and just a comment, these do include the bid packages, right? So this designer's gonna actually put those bid packages together for us that we can use to.
Yes.
Yeah, just in that statement, schematic design phase, design development phase, construction document phase, and construction period services phase is a little, it says T and E. So would you explain that? If that's a separate contract for them to monitor the actual installation of the project?
That's what Sean mentioned. That was the additional service that was not included as the construction administration phase.
Okay.
That's the phase that's not included in the cost.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Looking for a motion. Mr. Roman?
I'll make a motion to approve the security contracts, both subject to attorney review.
Support?
I have a motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? None. Thank you. Next item is a housekeeping item, request to approve amendment to personnel policies and procedures, section 4.1 hourly employees, 4.4 classification review, 13.3 unused vacation, and 20.1 health insurance. These items, you have seen them before, and we have discussed with them, but they have been now put actually into our policies and procedure. And essentially, we have eliminated some of the other older positions and created some new ones, but some of them are no longer in a collective bargaining agreement. That's section 4.1. Section 4.4, classification review, amends existing section and includes a detailed process for considering new positions or classifications that do not currently exist. That was the process that would be determined by the in-house in a preliminary review and/or request from department heads, and then brought to the board for validation. So the board is definitely involved in this process. Unused vacation days, I found it very, I just didn't think it was right. We have some employees or some Cracker Jack employees, and they didn't use all their vacation days. So I had a conversation and made a strong suggestion we allow them to carry one extra vacation day over, although it does need to be used in the first quarter, because we did have quite a few people that had time, and why are we going to penalize them? It's not fair. And the health insurance it adds a clause to our current policy for employees receiving an incentive when declining health insurance. Occasionally, we have a spouse or other dependent who is receiving health insurance through the township. They would no longer receive that stipend if a spouse or a parent carries the policy through the township. So we wouldn't be paying for it double. And that is pretty much the cleanup of this. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Roman?
Nope, they're all good changes.
Yep, yeah.
I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Please do.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendments to personnel policies and procedures, sections 4.1, 4.4, 13.3, and 20.1.
I have a motion to approve the amendment, personal policies. Looking for support?
Support.
I have motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Request approval for township attorney to prepare ballot language for Parks and Recreation millage proposal for years 2024 through 2033.
So in your packet is a memo with a recommendation.
Yeah, we'll get it.
Oh, yeah.
Justin, there's a microphone if you would like it.
Oh, good.
If they have.
In your packet's a memo. We summarize what the Parks Committee has recommended to the Township Board for a millage proposal next year. As you all know, the current millage is expiring. The last collection is happening now on the winter tax bill. So in 2018, the voters approved a 6-year millage at 0.3 of a mil. That's been permanently reduced by Headley to 0.28. So we currently collect approximately $420,000 a year, and the recommended millage is a 10-year millage and at 1/2 mil, so 0.5. And that proposed increase on the typical single-family residential property would be $37 per year, and we would try to achieve more of the projects in the capital improvement plan. There's over $25 million of projects. We're limited on what we can do with the current funding, so more millage money would help us apply for more grants to do more projects like pathways, sidewalks, pickleball courts. People want those things. They're hearing, they're seeing what we can do. They want more. We're hearing from them. So that's where the recommendation has come from. The committee looked at millages across Oakland County, what other townships do. The average is 0.68. So we're well below that currently at 0.28. So if we did go to 1/2 mil, we'd still be under average. So some of the items that we're maybe posing for discussion tonight, how does the board feel about the recommendation, the length, and then potentially the election? Is it August, November next year? So if you don't make a decision tonight, that's okay, because there's still time before this has to be filed, the ballot language, but just wanted to get the conversation started.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I, for one, I certainly appreciate you bringing this forward and having some discussion. I know the assessor had talked about a little bit and kind of a cumulative action. And what folks have got to realize is that we take in barely enough to do a good path project a year. We were fortunate enough that over the years, we kind of had some of the money from the last time it went out, that we were utilized those funds in the acquisition of Stanley Park, which is a great return for the community because that was a perfect example where we received 74% of the funding for the purchase of that park from the State of Michigan Trust Fund. So by having those funds available, we empowered those funds to get us more for our money. But unfortunately, I hate to say it, $400,000 doesn't go very far.
You know, a estimate for a pathway is $1 million a mile, and pickleball courts, a lot of people tell us they like what Commerce did at their Richardson Center. That was approximately $1 million. So, you know, we maintain our current properties, but we also we're getting requests for more amenities, and our capital improvement plan, which is our wish list, is becoming exceedingly unrealistic based on current funding. So it just is a decision of what do the residents want. You know, we're hearing from them, they want these things, and 92% of the current millage has gone into the parks, so less than 8% has actually gone into like administrative costs. So all of the money is going into maintaining and improving the parks. We have pretty lean, you know, staff, and which is good for the system because the people are seeing the money in the park properties. It's not administrative padding our costs for applying for grants or running the program.
It's in bringing up the pathways, because that seems to be through our Mr. Powell and myself and others that were involved in the Civic Center Development Committee. We had many surveys go out through that process when Howard was here, and walkability was like #1 on the hit parade, and on more than one of the surveys. I mean, it was multiple.
We did the CD study from 2017. I think that's what you're referencing with Howard. We did our Parks and Rec Master Plan survey in 22. We just did the Land Use Master Plan update over the summer. All of those surveys, whether they're about parks or not, the #1 thing that people want to see with township land use and property in the township is recreation and pathways. And since COVID, in the post-COVID world, nationally and at the state level, recreation, parks, trail millages are passing at higher rates than they did pre-COVID because people are recognizing the value of open space and trails and walkways. So I think, you know, it's something that will probably have maybe even a better reception than the 2018 millage.
I think it's worthwhile for the board to consider putting it forward at the new 10-year point 0.5. That's something we can do for ourselves here, and then we will be in control of, unlike some other millages that have been passed from a county standard, and we have limited ability, although we're benefiting from that to some degree. So it's just interesting to see, you know, where it will go. And I think a 10-year millage myself, that term is good. I think the half mill is good. I would probably put it on the August primary. That's just myself, and I would like to entertain some comments from my board members. Mr. Ruggles.
Yeah, I got a couple questions for Justin. So you said that we're currently collecting 0.28 because of the Headley Act?
Correct.
Could you explain that?
So part of the legislation, I think it was in the 90s, when that changed with how property taxes could be increased over time. We each year get the millage permanently reduced by, it may not be a tenth, but it's something. And our assessor works with Oakland County Equalization. That's the actual amount of the Headley override might change based on the township's taxable value every year. So you can't, I don't know in 2023 what the actual amount could be in 2026. It's just something that there's a formula that's used, but just looking at over the last 6 years, it was originally 0.3 mil in 2018. Now it's 0.2845. So it's not even 1/10
Because of Headley.
because of Headley.
Because the property values go up, and so we can't collect more money.
Right, so it's, you know, there's a formula where you can't collect more than X number of percent or the rate of inflation, whichever is less, and that is equalized over the properties. I'm not the assessor, so I don't want to be speaking out of my lane, but I
good
believe that's generally what it is.
At the Parks and Rec meetings, was there any discussion about what their temperament is, if it would pass or fail with, you know, increasing the amount?
All of the residents that we heard from, you know, we don't get a crowd like we did tonight at Parks and Rec committee meetings, but everyone that provided feedback was supportive of the recommendation. There's been interest for some citizen groups that have volunteered to maybe take up the charge of sharing with residents why this is something that would be beneficial for the township. So I think there will be more than one citizen group out if the board decides to approve this to go on a ballot to support the board's action and go around the summer to HOA meetings and the senior center. I see a group of citizens doing that, so.
Okay.
Mr. Roman?
Justin, I don't know if you were here 6 years ago when this millage passed. Or maybe Sean, maybe you remember, did it? I don't think it passed overwhelmingly, did it? At 0.3?
It did not.
I believe when I looked, it was 52 to 48, something
Yeah.
like that.
So my thought is I would feel more comfortable for our residents doing some kind of a renewal, but not a tax increase. And I think if we did go out for, I like the 10-year, but if we went for a renewal, I think we can do the renewal and restore at 0.3 mils. That would be my thoughts, so.
As the Parks and Rec liaison, it was unanimous that we do the 0.5. We're a volunteer group that puts our heart and soul into the meetings and trying to figure out what to do with White Lake. Approximately $37 a month.
A year.
A year, excuse me, with 92% of the millage. Sorry, I have mileage in my world too. It's being spent on Parks and Rec. I totally we are all about the 0.5%. I left early, so I don't remember the discussion about when we would put it on. I would recommend August.
I agree with the August.
Okay.
But just so that you all know, Parks and Rec right now is sitting on $1.469 million. So it seems like we've done a very good savings job.
Except
Yep.
that that's pretty much.
That's all going to be spent next year.
Park to match the
Family park.
grant.
Yep, the
Yeah, a
grant
good portion of
About a
that.
$500,000, right?
Right.
A minimum of a $500,000. It's probably more based on the project estimate. The board is also likely going to be moving ahead with the Triangle Trail next year. We're bidding that out in January, so you'll see.
That's about 800,000.
That's about 600,000.
Well, total project.
Total
We already did
project.
The design is
Yep.
50, yeah.
The design we got a grant for, so we're always looking for grants to try to defray project costs, either engineering design fees or actual construction fees. So with the millage collection that's currently happening and the planned expenditures for next year, if we spend what we're budgeting to spend, we'll probably have approximately $400,000 at the end of next year.
And
So-
that doesn't include the annual maintenance on the parks.
Right, that
So
doesn't account for that.
There is something to be said about this. And I think if we allow the voters to take a stab at it in August, we'll have a pretty good sense of temperature as to what people want or not. And then we can always rethink if we need to. But anyone else here?
I just have a real quick question for legal. I was reading that 0.5 would be restore and recapture, correct or no? No?
0.5 would definitely be an increase.
I mean, okay, all right.
Yeah, it would be a renewal plus.
So it'd be two questions on
I
that.
think what the
No,
clerk.
you can call it renewal plus increase.
Okay.
I think what the clerk and I were talking earlier, if the board was going the renew and restore option, that could be one question because the amount of the restoration is less than a $500,000. So I'm not the attorney, but that's what we were looking at, some MTA language, that if it was a renew and restore, it was at a level where it could be one question and not two.
But he said to the 0.5.
The 0.5 would have to be an increase.
Yeah, the renew and restore would be to 0.3,
It'd be what?
to 0.3.
Just remember, our residents are experiencing crazy inflation, you
So
guys.
that was gonna be my comments, is this has been an unusually tough year, you know, and the cost of everything is so high, and it doesn't matter what class you're in, you know, bracket you're in, you're still feeling it in some way. So I worry about a tax increase this year, even though it's nominal. And then the flip side to that, I'm conflicted on this. The flip side to that is I know our residents want these things. I know they want sidewalks and pathways, and we all hear it, you know, pretty consistently. So I'm conflicted. I lean more towards just a renew and restore at this time, but I'd like to hear a little bit from my colleagues.
Yeah, I agree with Liz. More money is great. I'd love to have a lot more of it, but I don't think I'm hesitant to, have a tax increase. I'd like to see what the voters have to say, but, I mean, it was 50-50 before. I have no problem with the, 0.3, great. I agree with Mike, 10 years, that's fine. I'm hesitant for a tax increase.
Rick, just so everyone knows, there's always the general fund too. There's nothing that says we can't take general fund money and use it on some pathways, so.
Well, that is true, and
It's an option.
I agree with that. However, we are going to be taking on the largest project in the history of White Lake Township. And I would much prefer to have general fund dollars available to service that if need be. We have and are putting mechanisms in place to help generate monies to help defer some of the costs of infrastructure and a variety of other things to the corridor improvement. We also have property that is yet to be put to market, which has generated a lot of interest and will also help us in the service of that debt. And of course, some of the assets that the township has that we would liquidate to help service that debt. So we're in good shape, but with the unknown, I would feel more comfortable if we maybe could come to something even in between, even if we did a 0.4, if we don't necessarily want to do a 0.5, but something to think about, because you're looking at, it's less than a Starbucks coffee a month, okay, to have a place to go drink your Starbucks coffee, okay, and walk around. And I don't attend the Park and Rec meetings, but I get all the feedback. But through all of the other committees that I've sat on, again, this is the number one thing that people want. They want to get outdoors. They want to be able to do things. And I think that they should be given an opportunity to make a decision if they want to or not. And that's just me. From what I've been hearing and the little straw poll I've taken, most people are like, well, we'll get more out of that for us here than we will sending it off someplace else. And you know what they're referring to for that.
So respectfully, our residents are just gonna hear increase. And I'd rather it be something successful. I think whatever we put on the ballot, I'd like to see it pass for Parks and Rec. So if it's a renew and restore and that's successful, that's better than an increase being not passing. That's what I worry about.
Well, it's a valid point. There's no
Yeah.
question about it.
So no one wants to see the Parks and Rec grow. They just want us to maintain and have to say 5 years to match a grant, for example, like we've done in the past.
Yeah, that's the difficulty with this limited amount of cash that's coming in.
And like I say, we're all volunteer.
Yeah. Well, it's just projects
Yeah.
that are being put on the radar are more costly than we've done in the past. And these paths and things of that nature, or pickleball courts, which I think would be a great amenity to the township somewhere, they're going to cost more than what we anticipate.
Absolutely.
So
Got a hand up.
I see that. One moment, Mr. Powell.
Yes, if we're going to make any increase at all, we might as well go to the 5, because if the voters see increase, they're not going to say, oh, it's only going to be 0.4 instead of 0.5. They're going to be thinking increase. So we might as well go for whatever this board thinks would be probable or best. I want to just share something with the board in that I was part of a large mailed survey, and this is in Commerce Township. And a mailed survey went out to all the residents in Commerce Township a number of years ago, and 80% of the people said they wanted new paths. They wanted parks and an increased millage and paths everywhere. But the millage lost because it's easy to say yes when there's no money on the line, but when they're actually voting, all of a sudden they say, no, I don't want to increase. And so it's critical, and both sides are extremely valid. But the Park and Rec Committee and people giving advice, it's so easy to say, yes, let's increase. But when it comes time to vote, that would be a real shame if they voted down. Now, the other side of that is if they voted down in August, we would have another chance in November then to go back to the 3 and restore and renew. That being said, it's also, and I really want to stress to the Park and Rec Committee and to the Planning Department, that the Park and Rec Fund is so easy to, and I don't want to say frivolously spend, but it's so easy to spend the money on maintenance, and it can disappear. We've done an excellent job in maintaining what we have and doing projects. I hope that the Park and Rec and the Planning Department can say, listen, residents, we have done these projects with our money. We've been very good at it, and this is what we promise to do in the future. Not just let it be, we're going to cut the lawns, we're going to plow, we're going to do all of this, because that money can disappear in a heartbeat if we don't promise the people what we're going to do with that, with those funds, and then stick to it. So that's just the wisdom from a couple different viewpoints.
No, that's a real good point, Mike, and I appreciate that because I hear that on the street, and I've heard that, well, we have this millage and not a lot's been done. Then I have to remind them, well, we bought Stanley Park.
Right.
Oh, we're maintaining these parks. Oh, and then, we're going to launch the Triangle Trail. We're committed to that, so that makes a difference. So it's something that I think people need to be cognizant of and know that we are making an effort and we are trying to move these types of amenities forward. But again, you can only move what you have the resources to move it to. And it's just very important. And I think I would go along with your thinking, Mr. Powell. I would go for the 0.5 in August, and if that was not successful, I would go back and humbly request the restore and renew on the 0.3.
I do want to point out that the very first year that we had a Park and Rec millage, I was a major pusher. I was on the Park and Rec Committee, and I was a major pusher, and we really said we wanted pathways. Well, not one penny was spent on pathways. And that was discouraging to not only me, but to the rest of the people that voted for it. And so we have to be vigilant and do what we promise as well.
And that's still lingering in the community.
Yes.
That's why I worry.
Well, it is. However, I had a group that came in, that was a group at that time when that proposal came forward, that came into my office, and and I really didn't know them very well, and they looked at me and said, what are you going to promise us if we get you this millage? And I said, I'm not going to promise you anything, but I'm going to promise you that I'm going to try to do something. And we have done some things. We've acquired property, and we also have the plans for 2.2 miles of pathway on the books, ready to go. And we're going to pull the trigger. Mr. Anderson.
Please state your name and address, sir.
Steve Anderson, 8600 Newport Drive. Couple of things I just wanted to agree with what you were talking about, Trustee Powell, that we did during the time of Parks and Rec promise pathways. Granted, that's a situation that the first thing that everybody's going to come up to and say, okay, you promised this, we gave the money, what did you do with the money? And you have to justify what we did with the money. So just take that in consideration when we're starting to look at it. Number two, Hugh, what's the difference between the 2.8 that we have right now and the 5 that you're saying that it's going to be $37 a month? Do you know what the calculation, knowing that you're very analytical, you probably know exactly what that is?
Yeah, it's approximately 380,000.
Okay, but no, what I'm saying is that for the taxpayers, $37 a month at 5.5, correct? So if all of a sudden it just goes for the renewal, what would that?
So currently, the typical single-family household pays, again, typical, and this is approximate, $49.79 a year. Under a 0.5 millage in 2024, that same household would pay $87.50 per year.
Okay.
So that's about $37.70 per year.
Okay, so it could be increased, and definitely as far as Trustee Smith was talking about, that it's going to be a burden or whatever, it's hardship. So, and the last thing, or two things, do we generate any revenue from the Parks and Rec? I mean, a long time ago, when I was there 20 years ago, we used to generate revenue from the rental of the fields and different things like that. Is that even taking care of the maintenance?
Questions? So we do generate revenue through field and pavilion rentals.
Right.
We also get miscellaneous revenue for donations throughout the year. So we do, it varies from year to year, but there is some revenue aside from the millage.
To go ahead and pay for the maintenance of different areas.
It's minimal, but there is some.
Okay.
This is not a significant amount of money.
Right. It was.
It's
I'm
less
just
than
going back to
$15,000 a year.
knowing what it was before. It wasn't really significant. I didn't know if it changed since that time period. 20 years, things can change.
We actually recently, Steve, have done pretty well. The treasurer moved some money around into some more kind of aggressive accounts with the county. I think that's been a pretty decent source of income too.
Right,
is it
so
not?
a lot of the money that's in savings is actually in an investment pool right now, the conservative investments, but while we're waiting to spend it, it's accruing some additional gains in the investment pool, and it's liquid, so it's my understanding that we can get it when we need it. So we do gain on that front as well.
Okay, thank you. And the last thing, the pickleball courts, you talked about it was $1 million or whatever else from that for in Commerce.
That's what another community approximately paid.
But please understand that the pickleball courts were built on tennis courts.
Right.
So from the standpoint of what we would be doing is from ground up. So I would think that it's going to be more than $1 million when you don't have the surface of the tennis courts. So just take that in consideration.
Yeah.
Thank you,
guys. Appreciate that. Yes, sir.
I agree with Mr. Powell when he said that we should identify what we're going to use the money on so we can tell the voters what it's going to be used for and then show them. And Justin mentioned that, 1 mile of trail could be $1 million. Well, if that really is true, then there's no point in
Not enough money.
saying that we're going to build trails, because even with 0.5, we can't afford it.
Yeah, there's not
You know,
enough.
there's
But
just-
it's something to keep in mind is that money that's collected additionally is giving the township more power to apply for more grants. So we could take $500,000 in millage money and match it with $500,000 of a grant and do so you have the capability to do a lot more. We're limited on even the grants that we can apply for, because if you don't have the match money, you're not eligible to apply for the grant.
Case in point, Stanley Park. We were able to receive the grant because we were able to match it. And had we not had that money specifically for that purpose, we'd be SOL. So it gained us, how much, 500,000?
500,000.
So that's not a bad gain.
No, and I understand that, but still, I mean, the likelihood of being able to actually put any trails together at this mill without a grant is just not happening.
I don't necessarily agree with you, because right now we are putting a trail together, putting 2.2 miles of it will be, done. Some of it's already in place, some of it's quilt work. We're going to have to go back and do some patching but nonetheless, that'll be in place, I hope.
Next summer, it'll be
Next
done.
summer, yeah.
It must have been a
So-
lot less than $1 million a mile.
So, in this particular case, if we have those monies available, and we're still looking potentially at any grants that could be available, we did apply for a couple of the grants to see if we can get some construction. We were fortunate enough to get from the Ralph Wilson Foundation to receive a $50,000 grant that covered 99.9% of the engineering and planning. So that was huge. So, but again, we just have to keep looking out there for these mechanisms to help us get the most out of the money that we have. And I agree with you, even at that number, there's not a lot. If you look at some other communities, one in particular, they have 4 Parks and Rec millages. 4.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think the point I'm making is if you want to really say we're going to do some trails, then you need like 1.5 mil,
Trustee Rose, I think to your point, something, you make a good point. Like the Triangle Trail is more cost effective. There's no wetland crossings. If you have to do a boardwalk, Trustee Powell, you know how much a boardwalk is over a wetland for a trail. So you can plan strategically where it's easier, where you don't have environmental factors and there's already a framework for a pathway. And we have a good, in our new Parks and Rec master plan, an inventory of where those spots are that are more cost effective than others. So we may not be able to do miles of wetland boardwalk crossings, but when it just comes to an asphalt or a concrete pathway, we'll have a lot more capabilities. And there's a lot of places that those could go up and down M59. Sidewalks to schools, maybe there's opportunities to do safe routes to schools with the Huron Valley School or Walled Lake School. The opportunities will open for the township if we have more funds available.
Guys, if what you're saying, Justin, is we don't have enough money in the Parks and Rec Fund to get these grants, and these grants are likely obtainable, I'm the first one to suggest, let's take some general fund money and throw it into Parks and Rec. If that, I don't want to lose grant money is my point. Secondly, Lisa, can you speak a little bit about the renewal idea along with, what did you say, a specific language millage as an alternative?
Well, there was concerns expressed about a previous millage and being sold to be used for pathways, and it wasn't. There is a mechanism in the millage language where you can put in what the millage money will be used for, and it has to only be used for that purpose.
So you could do a renewal
I think that's necessary because the
3
worst
mil.
thing we could do is go out and ask the voters twice for a Parks and Rec millage and not deliver. So I would, if we do an increase at all, I think it's really important to put that mechanism in.
The only
Or
problem
is that
with
just for, is that mechanism just for a renewal?
So the problem right now, if you're going to renew, you don't want to mess with the language.
Okay.
If you were thinking about doing an additional millage, like another question, you could limit what that is used for.
Okay.
I wouldn't suggest if you're going to do a renewal, I wouldn't want you to mess with the language at this point. And a renewal with an increase, if you limit it in a renewal plus increase, it will limit it to all the money. So that's where it gets a little tricky. You don't want to do that.
Now you don't have the money to maintain the parks.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really hard. In the previous years, for example, police millages would say, this millage is for equipment. And it got to the point where you couldn't use that money for anything else, and it became somewhat debilitating, which is why it's more equipment, labor, materials type thing. So communities generally shift away from limiting millages for that reason, but only because you were expressing that particular concern in the past is why I mentioned to Mr. Roman that was an option in addition, like an additional question.
Okay.
I think that would tie the township's hands, and I think it would not be, it just wouldn't be in the best interest of the township to make that move, because then you've got to sit there and say, okay, how do we maintain the parks if this money is dedicated 100%, and how do we maintain any pathways that we will have in place in the future over the next 10 years? We won't be able to use even the money that's generated for a pathway to maintain it. So that could be a possibility, but would be really reluctant to move forward with that. Anyone else before I go back out to the
I have
crowd?
I have one last thought. Is it worth tabling this at all for a month just to kind of explore more options? Like maybe we want a different percentage, maybe we need to think about the general fund. You know, we don't have to decide tonight. It has to be language that goes on by April. So maybe we need to be a little bit more cautious and think this through a little bit.
I think the request is simply to ask bond counsel to draft some language. You can ask them to draft alternate language for you to consider.
Okay.
So that at least kind of moves the needle forward.
The whole idea is just to kind of get this in motion to some degree. Okay.
So, I mean, and I think, I don't want to speak for Justin, but I mean, really just getting the conversation started. I wouldn't pay the bond counsel to start drawing up all this language. I'd rather you guys take a month instead of wasting $1,000.
Hash it out a little bit.
Right.
I think maybe
Huh?
it'd be
It's
wise
free.
to
It's a
just
free
kind of
service.
explore some more options.
Because he's your bond counsel and he gets his money other ways.
That's fantastic then. Draft away.
Mary Early, please come forward.
Mary Early, 5925 Pine Ridge Court. Shouldn't come as any surprise to you that we go to the Parks meetings. And that we sent a letter about the millage because we were unable to attend the meeting. But we would like to see the half mill. And pardon my selfishness, but I'm tired of hearing about Stanley Park. I live right behind Hidden Pines Park, and it's been sitting exactly the same way since the township bought that land. We would like to see a pavilion. We'd like to see improvements in the parking lot. We'd like to see a little path, a circumferential around it. We'd like to see something that would keep the porta potty from getting knocked over. And all of the money keeps going elsewhere. And I'm sure Hidden Pines Park is not the only one that needs some improvements. So, again, we think the half mill is not exorbitant. Starbucks coffee, you probably couldn't even get.
No, probably not.
So we totally support the half mill, and I think August is a good time.
Thank you. I saw another hand out there.
Yes.
Gianna Pendley, 5335 Wayne Road. Have you considered the possibility of crowdfunding for people to privately donate instead of asking everyone in the township to have to contribute more tax money? Because I definitely agree with your point, but I also agree with the point made that if you're going to ask for 0.4, why not ask for 0.5? If you crowdfund it, you could offer an incentive to have each donator help name each trail, put a little plaque up. That's cheap.
I think those are some funding mechanisms that we really haven't stepped into that realm. And there may be some merit to that in the future. And it's definitely worth looking into it because it's amazing the amount of money some of these things raise, when you have a cause or a need. So that's definitely not off the books and it's definitely in the idea bag. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Any other conversation on this right now? Mr. Roman, you want to say something?
It's time to put our money where our mouth is. We told our residents we'd give them pathways. Let's give them pathways. And I have no problem putting a millage out there that says pathways only. So.
I'm worried that this actually won't be enough to fulfill that.
Yeah.
Well, it
Yeah,
won't.
so what are we worried about?
Look, we have made a lot of headway over the last 6 or 8 years with what we've acquired for the community and what we have currently planned in the pipe, okay? So things have moved forward. It may be moving forward slowly, but it's still moving forward. It's just like this township hall, township property. Let me see, I think I don't even know if one or two of us here was even born that's sitting at this counter when this thing first came to light. So how old is Q?
I won't say.
It's like 19.
19? Yeah, there we go. So that's, and it took that long to get everybody together to pick the brick,
Yeah.
okay? And we're at this crossroads. So I wouldn't sell the township short. I wouldn't shackle Park and Rec with that particular restriction. I would certainly like to put it out there and see what the public will do with it. I think that if the public knows what we've done and what we are currently working on and what commitments we will have, there are a lot of projects that are potentially out there. There's a few of them that I've had some discussions on that I'm not going to get into right now. But the awareness and the heightened availability of funds available for path projects has definitely increased since COVID. So there's more money available for these types of things out there. And if we put ourselves in that position and we have the funding, we can take and as a board, make, a vow to our board and to our public that this is the objective, this is what we're going to do. We'll pick out a project and we'll go through the master plan, see what is the most feasible project is, in addition to the Triangle Trail and potentially hooking up to it. And there again, we'll have an expansion of the system and a deliverable.
Well, I understand what you're saying, Rick. The challenge is you tell the public we're going to do a project and we plan on doing a project, but then you go out to bid and the cost is twice what you think it is.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been running into, and I don't know if that's going to go away, guys.
I have one more question for Justin. The matching for, to Mary Early's point, Stanley Park is high on the priority. So what is the matching for the grant for phase 2?
Of Stanley Park. We just don't know yet. It depends on what this township board decides it wants to do in a phase 2. And if I can address the comment from Mary, we have Bloomer Park, we have a master plan for that. There's a phase 2, there's a Hidden Pines Park master plan, there's a Fisk Farm master plan. We have this township board has done a great job planning for what it wants. And now it's, we just need to get there. Something that some communities do, if there is a millage for Parks and Rec, they maybe do a presentation, annually at budget time of, here's our accomplishments in the last year. So if it's a 10-year or a 6-year millage, whatever it is, at budget time, you can hold yourselves accountable by saying, this is what we've done with the money. The Parks Fund is part of the annual audit. The budget is always approved. We have a pretty detailed budget with line items that's pathway improvements, park improvements. So it's pretty public and transparent about where the money goes and how it's spent. But, we can always do a better job of sharing accomplishments and where things go. So
I think
One
it's
more point,
important
Rick.
to be honest with our residents.
Sorry,
So
Anita.
if
Said anything.
we are going to put monies towards Stanley Park in order to keep, to finish it. So if that's all we have left and there isn't enough for pathways, that doesn't sit well with me that we're going to promise the residents that we're going to do something that we can't actually fulfill. That's my concern.
Okay, Mr. Roman?
I was just going to say, when are we going to rebid Stanley Park?
January,
Okay, when will those come back in?
at the end of January. They're going to be bid out the first week of January. Bids will be due at the end of January. Same with the Triangle Trail.
Okay, I just
we
think
should
this
wait.
board is in a much better position to get those bids back maybe and then decide
Yeah, I think
what
we
we
should
want to
wait.
do.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Until I heard this tonight, and first of all, I want to thank the Community Development Director and Justin for going aggressively after the grants. You guys did a great job, but what's concerns me is the 52 to 48%. And my concern is that I don't think it'll pass.
Well, that's for the public to decide.
I'm all for the 10 years.
Yeah, the 10-year would be the route to go.
I just would hate to see it fail.
Okay.
We all want it to pass, but
Yes.
there's great concern here. And I think with a little bit more information on Stanley Park, then maybe we
I
can
know.
proceed maybe at our February meeting.
When does the decision have to be made, Rick?
Not till
March, I think, April, March, April, yeah. Now, I'm going to tell you, you've got to remember too, and I just want to remind everybody, that millage was pre-COVID. It's before people started coming up to me and saying, gee, we want more paths, we want more of these things available to us. Prior to that, I didn't hear as much conversation about paths and getting outside as I do
did.
now.
There's always
Okay.
been a request for pass.
But it's even more so. So I think there's a really good success, And frankly, it's up to this board. It's up to this board to sell the idea and tell the people, look, this is what we're going to do. I mean, we're doing what we said we were going to do with the Township Hall and facility right now. We're moving forward with that, okay? It was a pipe dream. Well, there's a sign in the ground and brick on the floor, okay? And 2 architects sitting here, okay? So we're moving forward with that. All we need to do is be steadfast in what our goals are and achieve them. And take the master plan and Park and Rec, the recommendations, and put our best foot forward. That's it. I know there's a lot of back and forth on this. We could talk about on this all night long. We have a little bit of time. We can have some more conversation over this. I'm going to make a motion to table.
I'll second.
Postpone, rather.
I'll second it.
I have a motion to postpone. I have second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Postpone until next meeting. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. Good conversation. Resolution to approve Goose Nest Roundup for White Lake.
Justin, great job, by the way.
Yeah, Justin.
Great job.
Great job. Goose pate. Mr. O'Neill?
This is not me.
Oh, it's not you? Okay. Well, I guess it's going to be me. Okay.
I can talk about it.
Oh, well, we can do the goose, okay.
have to
This is a request from the White Lake Citizens League on behalf of the property owners of White Lake with permit application to the DNR and approved for the taking care of the geese, and the Goose Busters will be there. It's called the Goose Busters. I didn't make that up. That's what it's really called. And they will take care of that problem and mitigate some of the nests, which will eliminate some of the problems that we have in there. It's determined that the Canadian Geese Nest Destruction Program is highly effective in what it does, and it is humane. So this has been before the township before. Variations of this on other lakes have been in front of the board. Any questions or comments at this time? Otherwise, seeking a motion.
I'd like to make, go ahead. No, go ahead, sir. I'd like to make a motion to pass resolution number 23055 to approve the Goose Nest Roundup for White Lake.
I have a motion, looking for support. Support. I have support from Mr. Ruggles. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Request to approve fireworks permit for Alpine Valley. Chief, any questions or comments on it? The application looks
It
good?
was reviewed by the fire marshal, fire department. It was complete. We have no objection.
Okay, very good. Like to have a motion, if I could.
Make a motion to approve the request for the firework permit.
I have a request to
Support.
approve. I'm looking for support.
Support.
I have support from trustee Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Thank you very much. Request to approve agreement for cemetery section services for years 2024 through 2026. Huron Cemetery Maintenance. Mr. Clerk.
So as we spoke before, there was some language that needed to be cleared up. As you see before you, we cleared that up. We have one sexton for the entire county. And I believe our last contract was 2019. So we cleaned that language up. And if you see in the fee scheduling, and I believe it was over the cremation. I think trustee Powell and I were going back and forth with that last time. So if you notice, we cleaned that up.
There's only one sexton in the whole county.
Correct. And due to COVID, inflation, and everything, that's why some of the fees have went up, but not exorbitant.
Questions or comments from the board?
So he pretty much
Many
opens,
options, isn't it?
No,
One second.
and
One
so he
second.
pretty much opens, closes, and maintains the cemeteries.
Correct.
He doesn't mow the lawn, I know for
No.
sure. He doesn't, okay.
that's going to be Houston, who does an
Yeah,
excellent job.
yeah, I
for
agree,
the
but then
township.
he sets the tombstones too, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Make sure there's proper foundation underneath
And we
them.
did give it to council for Lisa's legal review, which she did go over, correct me if I'm wrong.
So can he go in there and repair some of them? Also, I'm not talking cleaning them.
That's a separate item.
Yeah, it's kind of a separate item, because you don't technically, Supervisor Colon, and we don't
Yeah.
technically own it.
No, that's a whole different set of
Ballgame?
circumstances, yeah, ballgame. That wouldn't, not with the sexton, so. All right, any other questions or comments?
Well, yeah.
Yes, sir.
What would happen if he said that he's gonna quit doing this? Then we have to find somebody from another county, from far away?
You got a backhoe?
Well, and I've mentioned this before, and it's nobody's fault, but every time we have a contract with this guy, or quite often, his fees go up. And there's nothing we can do about it, right? He says 1,100, it might as well be 2,700, so.
There was years ago, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Powell, but didn't Mr. Brendel?
The previous treasurer of the township used to be the sextant as well.
That's correct.
Are you suggesting I get into that business?
That would be a great idea.
Yeah, be a good idea, Mike.
So,
Kubota tractors are on sale right now. so.
Would you like to jump in?
No, I have no interest in any of it, but, his fees just keep going up, and our residents pay the price, and there's not much we can do, so I don't know if there's some way to look into an alternative, or maybe somebody wants to go in business doing this, and we can find them, I don't know, but.
It might help to check with some other counties, our neighbors, maybe I can check
Closest
with
would be-
Commerce and.
I'm not
see.
saying that he does a bad job, I think he's
Yeah.
doing just fine, but,
Well, like, just to have a backup in mind.
A good point. I mean, the closest to us would be Livingston County.
Right.
So maybe reaching out to them and discussing it and kind of comparing fees, but that's where we're at.
I could tell you, I just bought one in Berkeley at Roseland Park, and it was $2,600 just for the plot.
it's because there's probably bidding war, there's so few left.
True,
High rent district.
true.
Okay, so, that being said, we're going to move this to second reading, correct? Or we're going to adopt it, I'm sorry.
Before you do, I just want to make sure, and maybe the treasurer clerk knows, this is not paid for with township taxes,
You're right.
correct? This is user
We're going to adopt
paid
this agreement.
for. Okay, so
Yeah, I know.
there'll be a time when maybe their services aren't needed, but they're being paid for their services by someone needing that service, and it's not a tax issue that the township pays for.
And I believe we took it over in 19, correct me if I'm wrong, but Andrea is it goes back from the Presbyterian Church back in the 80s.
I have no idea, no clue.
Well, we got them now.
Yes.
So, okay. So I'm going to make a motion to request to approve the agreement for cemetery section services for years 2024 through 2026 for Huron Cemetery Maintenance. That's a motion. Looking for support?
Support.
I have motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All in favor. Thank you. Next item. Second reading of amendment to fee ordinance number 129. Mr. Clerk, anything to add to that? This is second reading. We did go over this before. It was the cremations clarification.
Yes, that's what earlier I was speaking about, when there was some clarification on the language change. And we did clean that language
Questions
up.
or comments? Seeing none, looking for a motion?
Motion to adopt the second reading to the fee ordinance.
I have a motion to adopt fee ordinance number 129. Mr. Rome is supporting.
I made the
You
motion.
made the motion, I'm sorry. Looking for support?
I'll support.
I have support from Andrew Voorhees. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Thank you. Item 11, 9885 Cedar Island Road update. Anything to add?
No, I explained last time, we did get an order of the court. It has been entered. And if the defendant fails to comply with the court order, the township can go onto the property and clean it up and bill him for the cost.
What's his timeframe on that?
February.
February?
Late February.
Late
I
February?
believe. Yeah.
We gave him 90 days from the date of the oral argument.
So we'll come back here in February with that and see where we stand. Civic Center Committee update. Well, we had a big update today. So we got picked a brick. So we're moving in the right direction. Mr. Roman, anything you want to add?
Well, tomorrow morning, we are doing what is known as a page turn on the public safety building. So I'm assuming that, and Mr. O'Neill, please jump in to correct me if you feel needed, but the page turn is basically kind of going through a checklist of all the design work that's been done on that building. I'm not sure what happens after that, but then again, none of us have done this before, but Mike,
After page
jump
turn,
in
it'll
too.
go to start to go into construction drawings.
So if we need to tweak anything, we'll do that tomorrow, and then it'll be priced out again. There'll be another cost estimate, because it's a more complete set of drawings. And then once we get that back to you guys, we'll move ahead with construction drawings or CD.
Okay. I know the furniture committee has been out and they've gone and talked to a couple vendors. And so I think what they're going to do is try to put something together for the board so that the board can actually make the decision as to which furniture vendor we want to work with.
Tricia is working on that.
And that's about all I've got, unless Mr. Powell can add on, or Sean.
Nope. Moving forward. Today was a big update.
That was good.
Trustee comments. Andrea?
Thank you. Just want to thank Kelly Lang and her wonderful support staff for having a fun tree lighting. Even though it rained during the day, it held off, relatively speaking, for the nighttime activities. It was fun. Other than that, everyone have a great holiday season, and please don't drink and drive, and be safe. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Ruggles?
Oh, thank you. So on December 7th, the Planning Commission met. We had our master plan open house, and one of our commissioners is here, Steve Anderson. We had a good turnout at the open house, a lot of discussion, a lot of feedback from the residents. I thought it went well. After that, we sat down and had a short meeting and talked about a conceptual car wash plan that would potentially be located at 7009 Highland Road, which is just west of Porter, kind of at the bottom of the hill. It's a vacant piece right there. So if he so chooses, he's going to be moving forward with potentially a car wash there. I was able to attend the tree lighting at Fisk Farm. It was a great event. My wife and kids had a great time, and I'd just like to say thanks to everybody that donated their time. Rick, Kelly, Justin, even Kathy DeRocher was there handing out marshmallows. So everybody that donated their time to make it a great event, thank you. I looked like a lot of people were having a good time there.
As muddy as it was.
Yeah, even though we had to park at Walmart. And that's my update.
Thank you. Trustee Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'll also be pretty quick. So, quick library update. They now have their library window installed for patrons to use. So you can drive up on the east side of the building, and that's available. The Friends of the Library had a very successful holiday book sale and a canned food drive that went back to our community, I believe, Open Door and Community Sharing. And then I want to thank our Police and Fire. Both did an outstanding job giving back to our community this month. They had coat drives and collected gifts and boots and all kinds of stuff. So I just want to thank you for the extra effort that you did. And then I want to thank the Senior Center. We had a lovely luncheon, a Christmas luncheon today that was wonderful and hosted by Dave and Amy's. The food was great, and they had singing, and it was just a lovely afternoon. And some of us got to enjoy lunch together, which we don't get to do very often. And then I want to just take a minute to thank my fellow board members. We have had a fantastic year. We have accomplished so much, and way to go. We set out our goals and we accomplished them, and we're on the right track to serve our community to the best of our ability. So I'm really excited about what's coming up. And I want to thank our planning staff and building staff as well. They've been an integral part in achieving those goals. And I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a safe and Happy New Year. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roman?
Thanks, Rick. I want to thank you residents for coming out today. We always appreciate having some people in person, so thanks. Just wanted to let everyone know, Saturday, the 23rd, is our annual Goodfellows delivery. If anyone does want to help, we usually meet at the community hall across the street, 8 a.m. Scott's usually there. Are you bringing the kids this year?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
I'll be there.
It's great. tax bills are out. If you didn't get a tax bill, please call us or come by.
Let us know.
Let us know.
That's Mike's Christmas card.
Yeah, we do have,
Yeah.
we have 2024 dog tags too on sale now.
I'd say.
You can get them online as well.
On sale, like a discounted price?
They're not discounted, no.
He just means
If it were up to
labels.
me, I would love to discount it, but it's all through Oakland County, so they don't discount anything. And I just wanted to wish everyone a happy holiday. To my board members, love working with all of you. We won't always agree, but that's the way it's supposed to be. And gosh, our township employees, best holiday wishes to all of you as well. And best holiday wishes to our residents. So.
Good. Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Supervisor. I wanted to let everyone know we had a great luncheon with the seniors, and I am one, so I ate as much as I could possibly eat today. I spent more time.
That he can do.
I spent more time at the dessert table than I probably should have.
All that practice on the cruise ship?
That's on the cruise ship, that's right. But it was a great time with our seniors at the senior center. And I also want to wish all our residents and staff and my colleagues here a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. All you guys are going to be celebrating. Matter of fact, the fireworks are going to be off on my birthday. I appreciate approving that so I can enjoy that. I also want to remind everyone that this is the time of the year that we talk about the peace and love between all our families. And there's really only one power in the world that I know of that can maybe bring peace and love to the world. And we want to make sure that we understand what this time of the season is really for. So thank you to everyone for coming.
Thank you. Mr. Noble.
I'd like to recognize Hannah, who's a recording secretary. She's jumped in a few months back, and she's doing an excellent job.
Hand up, Hannah.
And I want to thank her.
Great job.
She dedicates a lot of after hours for these meetings, and she does an excellent job for us. And second of all, I'd like to wish the staff a happy holidays and a safe holiday for everybody.
All right. Well, we have a lot of little things going on. I'll start out with the controversial one. The oil well that exploded about 3-4 weeks now, time goes by. They were going to be doing groundwater sampling in some areas over there around December 6th. I have not heard back from Eagle as to whether or not that has actually occurred. I am staying on top of this as best I can, although I am continually reminded by the state and by the oil company, but that well is regulated by Eagle. So we will keep our eyes and ears open for the safety of our public, and we will keep you informed as things come to this township. I want to thank everybody for all their help at the tree lighting. It was a lot of fun. It was a little crazy. It was like Woodstock in the parking lot. We're getting parking cars and Chief's running around doing his thing, and Chief Keller, and he says to me, he goes, hey, he says, we got to shut the parking lot down. There's 3 or 4 cars stuck in it already. And I look up there and you can see headlights kind of doing this. And so everybody parked over at Walmart, and it worked out real well. And appreciate all the help in the barn. And Chief, appreciate the department being there, manning the s'more barrels. The kids got a kick out of it, and they had a lot of fun doing that. And I think it was really just an all-forward, good community effort. So everybody appreciated it. It's that time of season again, and we're still having Can the Halls, which is a food drive that we do here to support a local pantry. A couple of our local food pantries will take stuff all the way till Thursday this week here at the township, and we'll get it to the two pantries that really service our area more than others. We have a third one we help out, but I got a little different donation set up for them this year. So it may not be important to everybody, but sometimes that simple can of soup can make the difference of somebody having a dinner or not. And just think about it. And we really appreciate that. And the township will always get those types of goods to wherever they have to go. So, if you're moving in February or March, or you're doing something, and you say, hey, I don't want to move this with me, it's still good, we'll take it. I'll take it any time of the year. But the Can the Halls is the time of year that I'd really like to bring this to everybody's attention. The other thing there is, and not everybody knows about, there's a new internet service in town. And it is a very small one, and it started, I've been notified, and it's called Mercury Broadband. And they are broadcasting from the tower that is located, the cell tower that is located off of Bogey Lake Road, and right across the street from your place. You know where the greenhouse is? Bogey Lake Greenhouse?
Yeah.
That's the tower they're broadcasting from. So everybody wants a choice. There's potentially another choice. I know it does have limited range. But anyways, I wanted to bring that up because I get oodles of people complaining to me about a lack of providers. So that information came to me, and I want to pass it on. One little last thing, and I got to leave this. I told some of my board members today. It came to me, as some of you may or may not know, I sit on the board of directors for WOTA, which is the West Oakland County Transportation Authority, which White Lake, Highland, and Waterford formed several years ago. And this board got together and saw the wisdom in it, and the other communities did, so we formed it, and we protected ourselves and put ourselves in a very good position for the millage that was passed, the millage that was passed for transportation, of which takes out of White Lake Township a little over $1 million, I think, something like that, Mr. Roman. And we were able to get $5.8 million allocated from Oakland County for the budget for WOTA this year to service the communities that we do, as well as pick up a couple additionals. So we are moving forward. There's going to be an expansion there already is an expansion in the hours. You can take a WOTA bus up until 9 o'clock at night. Saturdays are now going to be available, and Sundays are on the books. There's a possibility that the general population program that the county is trying to push for and pushing us in turn to do will start in Highland Township sometime early next year as a model, and we're going to see how that works out. And that model will be molded into the other communities as time, money. And the biggest problem we have right now, we can't get buses. It's like people are saying, do this, do this, do this. Okay, can I borrow your car? Okay, because there just aren't vehicles available. The Ford Transit van right now, I think we have had, our original order was 21 or 22 months. Wow. Yeah, so it was crazy, it was nuts. So they're starting to trickle in better, and that strike didn't help, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the fiesta resistance, as they would say, is that it comes to me on through the channels that the good friends at the RTA might be back at it again, which is the Regional Transit Authority, which Macomb, Oakland, Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, I think it is, counties. They're going to be potentially looking at trying to put something on the ballot to bring a more regional transportation, which I think Oakland County is just fine. I think Oakland County needs to work with what we have and allow WOTA and NOTA and the other organizations develop their service programs here and let us do what we do. And we know that end of the business, transportation. The RTA is great, but I'm not interested in building a high-speed rail from Detroit to Ann Arbor or any other of these things that I've read about that they want to do, because I don't think it will have a great economic impact for Oakland County as a whole, and in particular Northern Oakland County. So just be mindful of that. If it's out there, make sure that you are educated. So that I'll say, thank you all for being here. Thank you in the crowd tonight for coming in. Some new faces, some older faces, okay. Not
Regulars.
old, but
We're gonna
older
call you
faces.
regulars,
Yeah.
not old.
Got to say that, right?
More familiar faces.
That's more familiar, thank you, more familiar faces. Of course, Steve's an old face, you know, we've seen him around. So, that's right. So with that, I say, good night, God bless. Have a very, very Merry Christmas and a good holiday season with your families. Take advantage of them, give them a kiss and a hug. You just don't know what life holds. Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Motion support, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.